Welcome to Under the Microscope Season 3. And in this season, we are talking mental health with a big focus on men. Us, guys. Let's focus on us. So greetings, humans and earthlings.
Greetings, humans and earthlings.
I'm greeting you like this not because an alien from another planet has taken over my body, but because that's what we all are, right? Human. Well, except maybe Elon Musk and all the other lizard people. But my point is, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or gender neutral. We are all experiencing life as human beings first. And that's how I'd like to start with this episode, because today we are talking about misogyny, which is defined as the hatred and prejudice of women. Now relax your testicles, guys. Relax, brah. I'm not saying men hate women, but I am saying we should become more aware of how we view and relate to women because of past power structures. So let me preface it by saying this. I won't be blaming or shaming men in this episode because misogyny and sexism are the result of a male-dominated system we all live in and have been conditioned by. We take this patriarchal male-dominated society for granted because it's been that way for thousands upon thousands and thousands of years. And it didn't necessarily start out as being bad, but in many cases, it's become less than optimal. And it's an unconscious system. Like, I'll give you an example of an unconscious system. Back in the day, cigarette companies used to use doctors in their advertising to say cigarettes are good for your health, right? 9 out of 10 doctors choose Camel. The 10th one probably died from cancer, bro. But back then, nobody knew any better. Not even the doctors. They were operating in an unconscious system, and the cigarette companies took advantage of this, doing whatever they could to sell the cigarettes. Imagine a doctor today recommended you a cigarette, bruh. You'd ask him what he's been smoking, dude. Well, it's been the same with male-dominated power structures over millennia. I'll give you an ancient example. As far back as 335 BC, right? That's before Christ, not before Corona. That's our new BC. The massively influential Greek philosopher Aristotle said women were inferior to men. Yeah, the same guy who said, be a free thinker and don't accept everything you hear as truth. He said women were deformed versions of men because they did not produce sperm. Hectic, bruh. Right? Imagine I told the women in my family that women are deformed versions of men. Dude, they'll turn me into a deformed version of a man, bruh. Did you know a man releases 100 million sperm to fertilize one egg, bruh? One egg. And you know why it takes 100 million of them? Because they won't stop and ask for directions. Come, I'm allowed one dad joke. Come on. But seriously, men take a few minutes to produce sperm. A woman has a whole other human being grow inside her for 9 months and then spends hours in excruciating labor. Now, from the sperm championing Aristotle, fast forward to today in a post-apartheid democratic South Africa, there's no denying we have come a long way in racial relations. But how are we doing with gender equality? How? We must never forget that we won our hard-earned freedom thanks to both the men and the women of the struggle. We could not have done it without the women who marched to Parliament on the 9th of August 1956 to oppose the apartheid pass laws, and we certainly could not have won without the self-sacrifice of incredibly brave women like Charlotte Maxeke, Winnie Mandela, Fatima Meer, Albertina Sisulu, and thousands of other women of all races and backgrounds who suffered cruelty at the hands of the apartheid government. Itself a misogynistic white supremacist system. Remember that. In South Africa, our constitution guarantees equality before the law and outlaws unfair discrimination based on gender, sexuality, and class, among other things. However, as far as we come in achieving freedom and racial equality, there's still much work to be done for gender equality. Our constitution with our Bill of Rights is there, but we have to abide by it and use it, people. It must be put into practice. And it pains me to say that South Africa has one of the highest rates of gender-based violence and femicide in the world. There was a famous struggle song, Watinta Bafazi, Watint Imbokodo. You strike a woman, you strike a rock. Not to be confused with the saying, when you strike Chris Rock strikes gold with a multi-million-dollar Netflix special. Brah. Yo, did you see that? Brah, hectic. Anyway, where was I? Watint Abafazi, Watint Imbokodo. When you strike a woman, you strike a rock. A resistance song that came to symbolize the strength, the courage and conviction of all the women who fought against apartheid for our freedom. However, it's still quoted today. But I wish it didn't have to be, because women are not being struck by oppressive government any longer. They are being struck by the husbands and boyfriends conditioned by a culture of ongoing misogyny. It's important to note that misogyny doesn't always manifest as violence or hatred towards women. Misogyny also means prejudice against women and the belief that they are inferior to men. So on an individual level, misogyny can be as subtle as interrupting a female colleague at work, not listening to her, taking credit for ideas, looking down literally on her, you know, they're looking down. Keep your eyes up here, gents. Now, on a broader societal level, misogyny can manifest subtly and even unconsciously, like with the gender pay gap, where women earn less than a man for doing the exact same job. Code for Africa, a gender pay gap tool based on the World Economic Forum's 2017 Gender Gap Report, found that South African men earn about 6,607.25 rand more than women monthly. This equates to the 6th largest pay gap in Africa, bro. And even as they're earning less money than men, women are the ones buying the contraception. That's right. A recent study showed 56% of men spent zero, nada, on contraceptives, while 51% of women bought the contraceptives. And when no one's buying the contraceptives, women are most often the ones often left taking care of the children, both emotionally and financially. Check episode 1 on fatherhood. So you can see misogyny doesn't just describe men or how they behave. Misogyny is part of a system we all are part of and perpetuate. So are we all victims of the system? It's obvious that women are suffering, but so are men. How, you may ask? Wow, little boys are raised and conditioned to think they must be stronger than girls. Boys feel they can't cry or show emotions for fear of being called weak or girly. When emotions are suppressed, this can actually lead to mental health issues and even violent behavior. And this is what we are seeing in our society today. This misogynistic, male-dominated system needs major adjustment. So how do we change our mindsets? How do we do this? How do we rewire the hard wiring in our brains that has conditioned us to believe certain ideas as fact? We've been told for centuries that men are better. But it's not a fact, right? It's an illusion, like Julius Malema's mining overalls. An illusion, bruh. If we change the way we think about women, we can treat them better, and we can create more harmony in our world so that families can be happier, healthier, and wealthier, and communities can be safer and be more supportive. But, we aren't going to dismantle the system overnight. You know, we have to make a start, and it begins with teaching children from a very young age that gender does not define who you are, and it plays absolutely no role in your capability or potential as a human being. Gender stereotypes are crushed all the time, over time. It's not odd to see men cook. There are many famous male chefs. I mean, women can be astronauts, men are nurses, and women can even be bouncers, like this female-only security team in Nigeria. So let's start nurturing our children and allow them to just be children, not little girls and little boys with strict rules for each. Secondly, we have to recognize misogynistic culture and speak up and stand up against it, whether it's reporting the man who beats his family, or if you're that man, actually seeking help for yourself. And you can be helped. You don't have to laugh at all the sexist jokes. You know, I have made, I'll be honest, as a comedian, made sexist jokes at times. Then my mother usually, my wife tells me, tone it down, Riyadh. This is the reason. Then I adjust, you know, because I want to improve, you know. And if you know your friends treat women as objects, not as people, play them this episode, bro. Play them the entire season 3. Also, if you employ women, pay them more. Men, you can also start buying more of the contraceptives. The condom aisle is something to be explored. So guys, as men, let's be more kind, more compassionate, more humble, and more understanding so we can be better fathers, partners, colleagues, and humans. There are organizations and programs here to actually help and support you. You can check out the links below. So that's been Under the Microscope with me, Dr. Riyad Musa. Until next time, humans. Do you want to be more interesting at prize and dinner parties? Then subscribe to Under the Microscope. You learn stuff, cool stuff, informative stuff.